Announcements done. Papers have been laid. Questions?
Yes. Honourable Leader of the Opposition, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've given notice of the following private question addressed to the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness, whether in regard to the death of patients HC and TS, which occurred on 9th March 2025 at the Victoria Hospital and on 11th March 2025 at the Sir Anirudh Jagannath Hospital, respectively, and having both undergone prior surgical interventions at the New Cancer Hospital, he will state if any inquiry has been carried out thereinto, and if so, indicate the outcome thereof in each case. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
Yes, Minister.
allow me at the very outset to convey my deepest sympathy to the bereaved families. I'm informed that patient HC was referred from Jawaharlal Nehru Hospital to National Cancer Center. Madam Speaker, I have the full medical record for the patient, but as it is confidential information and without the patient's written approval, in this case, the relatives' written consent, I cannot disclose same today in Parliament. Madam Speaker, with regard to patient TS, was referred from SSR National Hospital on 17th February 2025. I cannot again, Madam Speaker, state the medical history of the patient and the treatment received without the relatives' written consent. I wish to inform the House that in both cases, preliminary investigations have been carried out and there is no evidence of medical negligence. They were extremely complicated cases. Nevertheless, the newly constituted Medical Negligence Committee will review both cases. Madam Speaker, upon my assumption of office, I took note that there were 30 outstanding cases of alleged medical negligence which required immediate attention. My ministry is currently carrying out an audit of these cases, and to date 15 cases have already been audited. These 2 cases will also be audited in due course. In fact, I noted that the procedures which were put in place earlier were very lengthy, resulting in significant delays in the resolution of such cases. There has been a growing dissatisfaction among members of public, with several complaints expressing their frustration and dissatisfaction on the prolonged time taken for conclusion of investigation which spans over years. In order to address these shortcomings, I have reviewed all procedures and have already set up the new Medical Negligence Committee. The Medical Negligence Committee will be chaired by Mrs. Veerapan, Senior Advisor at my ministry, and will comprise the following members: Dr. Babade, Senior Advisor; Dr. Gejadar, Senior Advisor; a representative of Attorney General's Office; a manager, Human Resources Hospital Services, and consultant specialists in relevant field will be co-opted as and when required. For each case of suspected medical negligence, a team will be appointed by Director of Health Services for Hospital Services, comprising a regional health director from a hospital other than the one where negligence is alleged to have occurred, and a consultant in charge in relevant specialty from a hospital other than the one where negligence is alleged to have occurred. In order to ensure prompt action, the team will collect all necessary information and submit a report to the MNC within 48 hours. The MNC will have the power to convene any officers concerned, and the complainant for further explanation are required. The MNC will submit its report to Senior Executive of my ministry with its recommendation for further action within 1 month of receipt of the preliminary report. Appropriate actions in line with the PSC regulations will be taken where required. In addition, the following measures are being introduced to improve the patient safety in our healthcare system. Weekly mortality meetings will be chaired by the regional health directors to review all deaths reported in hospitals, identify preventable causes, and address lapses in care. Monthly reports will be submitted to Director of Health Services for follow-up, and clinical auditing will be introduced across all health regions to identify errors with a view to reducing medical negligence. In the same line, healthcare providers will be trained in auditing, and findings will be incorporated into the continuing professional development program. Monthly audit reports will be submitted to regional health directors to track progress and ensure continuous improvement in care. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that National Cancer Hospital is equipped with 4 surgical operation theatres, but no human resource planning has been carried out to have the services of even a single oncological surgeon. Because of that, we are having collaboration of foreign teams, especially from India, to carry out surgeries of complex cases of cancer. The National Cancer Center was inaugurated last year on 8th May 2024, and equipments lie idle, locked up in rooms in the center. In addition, consumables had already expired. After a site visit I effected immediately after taking office, I gave instruction for all equipment to be installed and surgeries to be carried out promptly. As at now, 62 surgeries regarding cancer have been conducted. As from 7 February 2025 to 12 surgeries were conducted by foreign surgeon and 50 conducted by local team. Unfortunately, there have been 2 deaths. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that pancreatic head cancer is a type of pancreatic cancer that arises in the head, rightmost part of the pancreas, which is near the duodenum. It is the most common location for pancreatic cancer and unfortunately carries a high mortality rate. Median survival is often 6 to 12 months or less without treatment. The mortality is high as it is often diagnosed late. As early symptoms such as jaundice, weight loss, abdominal pain or vague, the tumor is aggressive and fast spreading, especially to nearby vessels and lymph nodes. Response to chemotherapy and radiation is limited compared to other cancers. Overall survival rate is less than 10%. Cholangiocarcinoma is a bile duct cancer and has a generally poor prognosis, largely due to its often late diagnosis and aggressive nature. Prognosis depends on factors such as tumor location, stage at diagnosis, and whether surgical resection is possible. Medium survival 6 to 12 months. Depending on response to chemotherapy, survival rate is less than 5%. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the medical team. Despite all the risk involved in complex cases in performance of their duties, I wish to inform the House that Dr. D, Senior Consultant and Head of Minimal Access Oncology Survey, Department of Surgical Oncology, Sparks Hospitals, Bengaluru, India, performed the surgery. He is known to be an efficient and well-established surgical oncologist who has a wide experience in performing several oncology surgeries. I would like to thank the medical team and despite all risks involved in complex cases, I wish to inform that another Mauritian doctor was also involved in the operation. He is also fully qualified and he has conducted a series of surgical operations in our country. And I would like to thank both of them for the work that they had done. Unfortunately, 2 deaths has occurred. For this, you are extremely sorry.
Thank you, Minister. Leader of the Opposition. Supplementary question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I also wish to convey my deepest condolences to the bereaved family. This is a very serious issue, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister to confirm whether the ICU at the new cancer hospital is operational or whether patients after undergoing surgery have to be transferred to other hospitals for post-surgery monitoring?
Madam Speaker, this is a fact that we do not have an ICU as at now in the new cancer hospital. Before opening any hospital, it should have been the duty of the then government to take cognizance of the fact that this is a cancer hospital. Nothing was done. And secondly, Madam Speaker, we have hundreds of people, hundreds of patients they are queuing up. They are queuing up hundreds of patients and in order to undergo such treatment. And it is extremely impossible for any government to send all those cancer patients to India. Extremely impossible. And that is the reason why we have started the surgical operation, keeping in mind that in Flak Hospital, we have got a modern, a complex ICU where patients are sent, and also at Victoria Hospital. It is a fact. Everybody should understand that this was in all for that hospital was open, but in fact there was nothing, not the least equipment which was in use. And thanks to this government, and thanks at least to our Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, they have their eyes on that hospital, and we are doing our utmost best. Even the PET scan to be on, let us say, within a month or so.
Thank you, Minister.
He has said what...
Please, one moment. This is a very serious matter. I don't think we should joke too much. We understand what the minister said. We also understand what he said about the past government. Let the Honourable Leader of the Opposition carry on with his supplementary questions. You can also ask supplementary questions. Please.
Madam Speaker, he is now the minister.
Yes.
He should have taken the right
Don't
decisions.
say he.
Will he agree?
Don't say he.
The Honourable Minister, will he agree that this procedure is not only problematic, Madam Speaker, but it is dangerous and catastrophic?
Madam Speaker, when 62 surgical oncological operations have been undertaken, unfortunately, as I told you, there have been 2 deaths. What should the government have done? So we don't have the ICU. In fact, we are in the months to come, you will be having a modern ICU in that hospital. There was no other way than to start the operation. I can't allow patients to die without being attended medically.
Thank you.
Will he confirm that patient TS, after his surgical intervention, which was a very complex intervention, was transferred from the new cancer hospital to Sage Hospital at Flak, which is from 45 minutes to 1 hour away, thereby exposing that patient to complication, infections, and life-threatening conditions, Madam Speaker?
Be short and sweet and direct in your answer,
Yes.
please.
It was in the patient himself expressed the wish that he be operated. He expressed the wish, and we had to do it. And as I told you, in Mauritius, we have got one modern intensive care unit that is found at Flak. Madam Speaker, I have to be short. Yes, the House should know that my ministry, we need, that is governed, we have got 2.2 billion rupees of debt they have left. How can you expect us overnight to start a new intensive care unit? We haven't paid 575 million rupees for the COVID, though they were charging 2 rupees per litres of petrol. That tax they have taken, but that money they haven't paid. They are owing almost 1.2 billion rupees as overtime to those workers, to those medical and paramedical workers who are working in the hospital. Despite all these constraints, I can say thank you all the paramedical and medical staff.
Is the Honourable Minister aware that that patient sent a mail to his ministry expressing his apprehensions of being operated in Mauritius because he had been in front of a medical board whereby they had approved that he be operated abroad, Madam Speaker?
Yes, Minister.
Madam Speaker, normally there is a board comprising of 3 medical experts. They take all cases one by one. They take, and all cases are dealt by them, and that board decides whether the patient is fit to travel or not. And there are other aspects that take into consideration. But let me remind the honourable member, almost 4 to 5 cases are sent to India almost every week, which is itself something extraordinary, which was not there in the past. If this would have been referred by the medical team, definitely we would have taken the decision to send him abroad.
Okay.
So he is aware of the mail that was sent on the 20th of February to his ministry by that patient. Can he also confirm whether the other patient, HC, was also, after his operation, was transferred to Victoria Hospital for post-surgery monitoring, and that patient passed away 2 days later?
I have already mentioned in the beginning, a national cancer hospital was almost naked when you took over. And I couldn't have left patients to die without being treated. That would have been a crime according to law of this country. And we had to save life. And the member, he didn't tell the House, that patient, he expressed his wish to be operated by a foreign doctor. And in fact, his wish was fulfilled. But unfortunately, as I told you, that was pancreatic cancer. I am not a doctor, but everybody knows We have to speak the truth, nothing but the truth. It's almost impossible for survival. But we did our best because there is hope so long as there is life.
Yes, in one moment, he caught my eye. Mr. Dr. Lumia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
One moment. He already asked for the floor.
I'm sure may the Honourable Minister of Health confirm to the House and inform the House that the percentage of complication of such high-risk surgery, big pancreatic surgery or cologenestomy, is more than 10%. And in this case, it's 2 out of 52, which is only 3%. And we have to be grateful to the surgeons who came from India and not make political mileage on the dead bodies.
Madam Speaker, I have just mentioned, it's true, 2 cases out of 60. So 2 is too much, but still we have to thank our doctors and the medical team for the work that they are performing. And I don't want to be taken wrong. If you look at all the hospitals in the country, the percentage of death, I'm sorry to say so, is higher than what it is in National Cancer Hospital. I'm sorry to
Yes.
you have used this language.
Of course. Yes, your next question.
Yeah, can the Honourable Minister inform the House whether all the foreign doctors were granted temporary registration under the Medical Council Act? And if so, can he confirm whether the necessary documentation were issued?
Madam Speaker, I have to look into the matter, because normally the procedures are done by the staff of my ministry, by the officers concerned. But one thing I can tell you, yes, the answer I'm getting is yes. And again, one thing I'll say, it is important we should not impute motives on foreign friends who are coming to serve our country, because they do not take money. They only take at times, most of them, they take the travel, and then we give them accommodation and almost one dinner, that is all. And they are performing miracles in our country. We have to be redevable envers them.
Thank you. Yes, your
If he
next.
says so, will he table the necessary documentation with regard to...
I don't see the point.
Yeah,
Ask the
I'm asking
question.
him whether he will table.
What is it? I couldn't get
Whether
it.
you will table.
Whether he
let
will
me-
table.
Whether you will table the documentation regarding his last question about foreign doctors.
Madam Speaker,
there's nothing
Madam
to
Speaker,
hide?
yes, I don't have anything to hide, but as the procedure is, I have to get the clearance from the state law office.
course.
At least I get advice. But I would like to ask the leader of the opposition. He should have apologized to the House for the incompetence of the former Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, he cannot ask me question. I ask him question now.
What can I do? I mean,
Madam Speaker, is he aware that one of the doctors who performed surgery at the new cancer hospital did not have the necessary authorization from the Medical Council?
I have just mentioned that I'm going to ask your officers, because this work is done by the officers of my ministry with the doctors. I have to ask, but again, I would like to say that I don't have anything against the doctors who are coming voluntarily, most of them, to perform surgical operations in Mauritius. If such types of questions, simple questions, start cropping up, that will deter them from coming to Mauritius, because they are serving our nation. Don't forget about it.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, it's just you have to put in the balance what is more important. You see what I mean? Yes, what is more important? Yes.
Now, given the serious concerns regarding patient safety at the new cancer hospital and the recent death that I've mentioned, would the ministry support the setting up of a fact-finding committee chaired by an independent person to look into those cases?
I find it very strange, because remember at that time when dozens of them passed away without food, shelter, and without basic necessities, they did not seek it fit to condemn those actions. Today, he wants a fact-finding committee to be set up. I have already told you the preliminary report which was submitted to me. Unfortunately, I can't read it out because of certain things which are very secret. According to the preliminary report, everything was done well to the satisfaction of my ministry and the doctors. But despite it, we have submitted to the negligence committee and they will look at it.
Yes, I was going to say there's a medical council with a committee to do this kind of investigation already by law. Yes, Mr. Duval.
May I ask the Minister, he has mentioned the backlog of cases 15 cases so far audited. You have mentioned the audit of cases of alleged medical negligences. Can I ask the Minister, in view of the backlog, especially cases that occurred during COVID period, which were not properly looked into, is the Minister prepared to bring to Parliament an amendment to law for the extension of the limitation to bring a claim against a doctor or the state for medical negligence? When you have a medical practitioner, which is 2 years.
You can't ask that of the minister because it doesn't concern just his ministry. It concerns everybody.
May I rephrase? Is government prepared to review the limitation period, which is only 2 years, and in many cases is unsatisfactory in view of the backlog?
I get the feeling.
You don't need to answer that. The Attorney General in due course will address this issue. Okay? This is an overall question. Doesn't concern. I am saying again, please sit down. I am talking. I am saying again that you cannot ask him for his ministry because claims against government come on any sort of subject. So you cannot ask him to give you that answer. But I'm sure he's noted, and maybe government has noted, and this question may be thrashed out at one point. I have a few minutes left only. Yes, your last question.
Now, can I ask the Honourable Minister to confirm to this House whether those patients who had undergone surgery at the new cancer hospital had to undergo multiple reoperations due to complications related to the first surgery?
Madam Speaker, I mentioned 62 cases. If in 1 or 2 cases, I don't know, but the answer I am receiving is no, they didn't have to go all types of multiple types of intervention, that you know the case.
But even so, I mean, it's a medical issue. It's a medical issue and not a political issue. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. Yes, honourable members, the table has been advised that PQB 286 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms. PQ 294 will be replied by the Honourable Prime Minister, time permitting. PQ B268 and B70 have been withdrawn. Now I call third member for Flack and Bon Accueil. Mr. Ramkalawan.
Mr. Speaker, B267.
Madam Speaker, as the House is aware, since 1982, the Pay Research Bureau has conducted the general review exercise on pay and grading structures every 5 years, except for 2016, where the report was published after a period of 3 years. The 2016 PRB report, however, re-established the periodicity of the general review exercise to 5 years, as it was before, and consequently the last one was in 2021. The next report will therefore take effect on the 1st of January 2026. I'm informed, Madam Speaker, that the preparation for the next report started in March 2023, according to a preset work plan, and relevant information were gathered. These are impacting on the Bureau's calendar of activities, because I found out that there was some delay, because they talk to the different ministries, departments, local authorities, and also the Rodrigues Regional Assembly. There are 126 parastatal bodies that fall under the purview of the PRB. The Bureau has to gather the maximum information to facilitate the interaction and exchange of views with all the stakeholders. So far, the Bureau has had 578 meetings with staff associations and management of both parastatal bodies and civil service. 1,315 interviews have been conducted in relation to job description, and 12 site visits have been effected to examine the alleged problem areas highlighted by the stakeholders. As a matter of fact, the officers of the Bureau are presently in Rodrigues holding consultation with unions and management of the Rodrigues Regional Assembly. I have been informed, Madam Speaker, that the Bureau is facing several constraints, including delay from stakeholders to submit the relevant information. These are impacting on the Bureau's planned calendar of activities. The publication date of the report is now scheduled for December 2025.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. Yes, the Honourable Third Member for Rivière-des-Anguilles and Souillac. Yes, Ms. Dalvero.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. B269.
269. I'm informed, Madam Speaker, by the Acting Commissioner of Prisons that detainees are admitted to prisons either on remand or as convict following an order from the court. With regard to Part A of the question, the prison service is meant to ensure that hygienic conditions are maintained in all institutions. The measures taken including the provision of personal toiletries, clothing and bedding, as well as adequate toilet and bathroom facilities. A laundry system for washing clothing and bedding is also put at their disposal. Cleaning of cells and dormitories are performed by detainees under the supervision of prison officers. Furthermore, the prison service undertakes routine maintenance and upgrading works. Regular pest control interventions are also conducted by trained prison officers. Additionally, fogging exercises are carried out by the personnel of the Ministry of Health and Wellness upon request. Inspections by the National Preventive Mechanism Division of the National Human Rights Commission help to ensure the compliance with living standards. Moreover, workplace hygiene is regulated in accordance with the Occupational Safety and Health Act. The prison service actively monitors cleanliness through designated prison officers in each prison and also by visits by the Safety and Health Officer twice a week. In regard to Part B of the question, the prison service operates 3 fully functional inpatient wards that are open round the clock. They are located at the Melrose Prison, the Central Prison, and the Women's Prison at Beaubassin. Other institutions, namely Grand River Northwest Remand Prison, Petit Verger Prison, Richelieu Open Prison, and Phoenix Prison, have each a dispensary where medical treatment and primary care are dispensed during office hours from Monday to Saturday. During weekends, public holidays, and at night, prison health service officers from the Central Prison, Beaubassin attend these institutions in case of emergency. Detainees requiring medical care are attended to at the 3 inpatient wards and 4 dispensaries. Detainees requiring further investigations or special care and treatment are then referred to and admitted to Jawaharlal Nehru Hospital, where 2 wards have been converted for male and female detainees. These 2 wards offer a 24-hour inpatient service and are manned by nursing and medical staff of the hospital. An ambulance equipped with basic life support devices is on standby mode at Beaubassin Prison for the transportation of persons who are not well from prisons to public hospital. In addition, the services of the SAMI is solicited to attend life-threatening emergencies for conveyance of the detainees to the nearest public hospital. As regards to Part C of the question, Madam Speaker, I am informed by the Acting Commissioner of Prisons that the prisons institutions are not overcrowded as they are currently occupied at 75.32% of the optimum capacity.
Yes. Third Member for Beaubassin, Petite Rivière, Mr. Kira.
B271, please.
Madam Speaker, in regard to Part A of the question, I am informed that the annual budget allocation of the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation for the broadcasting of local and international sports events varies between 25 to 30 million rupees. As regards to Part B of the question, I am informed by the MBC that the FA English Premier League, the corporation currently broadcasts 33 live matches per season. That is 1 live match every Saturday under its free-to-air rights package and 3 FA English Premier League magazine programs each week. I'm also informed that the embassy has already secured the rights for the next 3 FA English Premier League seasons up to the year 2028, and this free-to-air rights package includes 4 FA Cup matches annually. Concerning the UEFA matches, I'm informed that the embassy has already secured a partnership with New World TV for the broadcasting rights of one UEFA Championship League match and one Europa League or Conference League match per match day, including quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals. I'm also informed that after several years, the embassy is now broadcasting the Spanish Football League competition known as La Liga with one match per weekend. Madam Speaker, regarding part C of the question, I'm informed that for local events, the embassy works in close collaboration with event organizations and sports federations for live broadcasting of the same. The embassy also intends to produce and broadcast future Club M matches played in Mauritius. Moreover, the upcoming horse racing season will be produced and broadcast live on the embassy. In addition, major sports tournaments such as the Mauritius Sevens Rugby Tournament are currently in the planning phase and will be featured as part of the corporate's expanded sports program. Efforts are also being made by the corporation to enhance the NBC 11 channel with a view to promoting youth engagement and the development of regional and gender-inclusive sports coverage. Madam Speaker, in regard to international events, I'm informed that the following negotiations have been undertaken by the embassy. An agreement has been concluded for the live broadcast of the FIFA World Cup 2026. The embassy exploring avenues to secure rights for other major events such as the FIFA Club World Cup, Africa Cup of Nations, World Athletics, and the Para Athletics World Championships. And the negotiations are ongoing for the broadcast of cycling events and other international competitions based on rights availability. Madam Speaker, it is apposite for me to underscore the fact that while free-to-air broadcasting rights are subject to limitations imposed by international organizations and their appointed regional distributors, the embassy remains committed to securing a diverse and representative sports offering for the population.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. L'honorable Premier ministre peut-il dire à la Chambre, et en particulier aussi aux amateurs de football anglais, suite à l'annonce que lui-même avait faite durant la dernière campagne électorale, à l'effet que tous les matchs de la Premier League seraient retransmis en direct à la télévision. Je conviens, tous les matchs, ça va coûter énormément, mais envisage-t-il, ne serait-ce pour ceux qui n'ont pas les moyens de s'abonner aux chaînes payantes, est-ce que la MBC, à travers le Premier ministre, de retransmettre ne serait-ce les matchs forts de chaque week-end afin de permettre aux amateurs de football anglais de visionner leurs équipes préférées?
In fact, I thank the honourable member for saying that given the financial situation of the country, but actually the embassy is looking to do exactly that, if possible.
Yes, of course. Of course. Yes, the Honourable First Member for Savannah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
B272.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed that the Industrial Finance Corporation of Mauritius was incorporated in August 2021, but was officially launched and became operational in February 2022. With regard to Part A of the question, I'm tabling a copy of the roles and functions of the IFMCM. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part B of the question, I'm informed that a total amount of 1,699,899,000 rupees have been invested in the IFCM as follows. 1 million by the government of Mauritius at the time of its incorporation, and the balance of 1,698,899 through the National Resilience Fund. Madam Speaker, I'm also informed that a special line of credit to the tune of 5 billion rupees have been made available by the Bank of Mauritius to the IFCM to operate its various schemes. Regarding Part C of the question, I'm informed that a total amount of 4.29 billion has been dispersed to some 298 enterprises since the operation of the IFCM to date. Regard to Part D of the question, I'm tabling a copy of the lists of the beneficiaries and the amounts of funds allocated thereto. Madam Speaker, even a cursory look at the list would suggest the gross abuse of public funds where huge amounts were dispersed to the cronies of the previous regime. Let me just give you a few blatant examples. 41 million rupees to Curious Construction Solutions Limited. 41 million. 64 million to RGT Limited belonging to Avinash Gopi. And 9.6 million to Artemis Hospital. A thorough audit will be undertaken to find out how these funds have been dispersed, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Will the Honourable Minister consider to do some investigation? Will the Honourable Prime Minister consider doing some investigations in regards to those allocations?
I think you just said that.
I just said that, Madam
Yes.
Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamdas. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. PQ B273, please.
Madam Speaker, it is the Bank of Mauritius which has the primary duty to maintain price stability while promoting orderly and balanced economic development. It does this through monetary policy and the management of the exchange rate. Prior to November 2024, there was a total disarray and inconsistency in the conduct of monetary policy by the Bank of Mauritius, which led to the continuous increase in the inflation rate, massive depreciation of the rupee, and consequently the continuous increases in the price of consumer goods. First, the increase in the key rate by cumulative 265 basic points during 2022 was not enough to assume to correct for the inflation expectations and prevent the depreciation of the rupee. Second, the Bank of Mauritius' decision in September 2024 to lower the key rate by 50 basic points was done for political purposes just prior to the general elections, and this further stroked inflationary pressures in the economy. Third, the excessive money printing by the Bank of Mauritius to finance the budget deficit and the MIC aggravated the excess liquidity situation in the banking system and again caused prices to surge. Madam Speaker, the new management of the Bank of Mauritius, which took office in November 2024, acted promptly to remedy the situation. Measures taken by the Bank of Mauritius include, first, raising the key rate by 50 basic points to 4.5% per annum in February of 2025. Second, increasing the supply of forex in the domestic foreign exchange market to prevent rapid depreciation of the rupee, as was the case before. Third, instructions to commercial banks to ensure that all dealings in foreign exchange, including swaps and other derivatives, are effected through financial institutions duly licensed by the bank. Fourth, stricter regulation of intercompany transactions in foreign currencies. And lastly, instructions to banks to ensure that forward transactions are priced in a fair manner and in accordance with market fundamentals. Madam Speaker, government completed these measures by imposing that at least 85% of the proceeds from sales of villas under the property development scheme should be converted into rupees. Furthermore, the government reduced the prices of gasoline and diesel by 5 rupees per litre in December of last year. And the government mitigated the impact of inflation and price rises by awarding a 14th-month bonus covering more than 90% of workers and the 2025 salary compensation. It should be highlighted that since mid-November 2024, the rupee has actually appreciated by around 4.5% compared to the dollar, and the inflation rate has since been maintained on a downward trajectory. In fact, the inflation rate, which was at a peak of 11.3% in February 2023, is now at 2.5% as in March 2025. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Finance will continue to coordinate with the Bank of Mauritius to ensure coherence in our approach to curb inflationary pressures in the economy. In this context, we are working on fiscal measures that will be announced in the forthcoming budget.
Thank you. Yes. Ms. Honourable Second Member for Hilliard des Ambiers. I'm sorry. Didn't catch my eye in time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, further to the statement made by the Honourable Prime Minister some time back in Parliament on the state of the economy. It is now of public knowledge that the previous government has been tampering with the calculation of economic indicators, including the rate of inflation, and that to hide the real economic situation in Mauritius. Will the Honourable Prime Minister be in a position to enlighten the House as to the true inflation figures, rate of inflation, the true annual rate of inflation from the years 2019 to 2024?
Yes, I could. It's a long, but maybe I should. You want headline inflation rates? I take it. Yeah. Well, if I go by month, actually now it is 2.5%. But as I said, at one point it reached 11.3%. But I can table the whole table if you want.
Yes.
One more question. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister of India has, in the course of his recent visit in Mauritius, announced that Mauritius and India will trade in Mauritian rupees. Will the Honourable Prime Minister consider the advisability of seeking similar arrangements with other trade partners, precisely with a view to eliminate the risks and consequences of the depreciation of the rupee in Mauritius, and of course to the benefit of the price level of our imports in Mauritius?
Unfortunately, I know of no other country that is prepared to do what India has done for us, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. That's it. You're done. Mr. Jaman, please.
Question B274, please.
Madam Speaker, with regard to part A1 of the question, I'm tabling the information for the period 2015 to 2024 relating to the evolution of the rate of betting tax on horse racing. Concerning part A2 of the question, I'm informed by the Mauritius Revenue Authority that the total amount of revenue generated for the period 2015 to 2024 was 4.5 billion rupees as betting tax on horse racing. Regarding part B of the question, a proposal to consider the shifting of the tax burden from players to operators will be again examined in the context of the forthcoming budget.
Yes. That's it. Okay, Mr. Rupni, third member for Pamplemousses.
Madam Speaker, B275.
Madam Speaker, the Police Department, in particular ADSU, and the Mauritius Revenue Authority are the two main agencies responsible for the fight against drugs, in particular the prevention and illegal entry of drugs into the Republic of Mauritius. I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that both the Police Department and the Mauritius Revenue Authority officers work in close collaboration for the detection of illicit drugs at the ports and the airport. They make use of an array of surveillance and detection tools for that purpose. I'm sure the Honourable Member would appreciate that for obvious reasons, I cannot give details of the equipment in use nor the protocols that have been put in place. I'm also informed, Madam Speaker, that as the modus operandi of the drug traffickers keeps evolving, they make use of the latest sophisticated equipment. It is imperative that our surveillance system be continuously enhanced to keep pace with the latest trend. Consequently, there is need to provide our law enforcement agency with the state-of-the-art equipment and to ensure that they have a replacement policy for obsolete equipment. Moreover, these agencies should ensure that provisions are made to enter into maintenance contracts so that all new and existing equipment are fully operational at all times for cost effectiveness and efficiency purposes. This was not the case before. In addition, government will invest in tailor-made capacity building programs for the upskilling of the personnel with regard to the detection of drugs, including synthetic and novel drugs. I wish to reiterate, Madam Speaker, that the fight against drugs is one of the topmost priorities of this government. We are already translating our pledges into actions, which are now showing results. To this effect, from November 2024 to March 2025, drugs for a street value of around 1.2 billion rupees have been seized. In the same vein, in line with the government program 2025-2029, we will today itself introduce the National Agency for Drug Control Bill into the National Assembly to provide for the establishment of a national agency for drug control, which shall be at the apex for addressing the drug issue, including prevention and drug controls.
Thank you. Yes.
Speaker, it is a fact that we have noticed an increase in the drug abuse in our country. I would like to know from the Prime Minister if our intelligence gathering agencies have at least detected an increase in import of drugs through our main ports? Thank you.
Yes, that is the case. That is why we had this large uphold, heavy. I think as I mentioned the figure, 1.2 billion rupees.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the honourable second member for my board. And then Manon.
B276.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Chief Executive Officer of Airports of Mauritius Company Limited that the airport master plan of 2004 made provision for the construction of a parallel taxi of the length of 3,450 meters, which was also to be used as the runway in emergency situations. 6 years later, that is on 12th of April 2010, AML decided to construct the taxiway of length of 2,450 meters only. The additional length of 1,000 meters would require the acquisition of private lands and properties along the ex-airport road at Shah, Gaon and Solitude villages. This taxiway was commissioned in July 2013 and is operational since that date. With regard to the Shah Gaon village, for the period 2007 to 2014, 42 properties were acquired for an amount of 104,309,109 rupees, including, this excludes, notary, registration fees and land transfer tax. In addition, another 63 properties had to be acquired. Accordingly, after a bidding exercise, the services of a chartered property valuer and land surveyor were retained in 2019 to carry out a valuation exercise of these properties. To date, AML has acquired 14 of the 63 properties for a total amount of 60 million rupees, excluding all relevant fees, as I said. Regarding the village of Solitude, a survey of residential properties were carried out by a professional land surveyor in November 2011. They wanted to acquire 32 properties to create an operational safety buffer zone around the airport. As of December 2024, 20 plots of land and properties have been acquired for a total sum of 47,653,114 rupees. 12 plots of land properties have not yet been acquired, as some of these owners did not have title deeds or they were not in order, or while others wanted an alternative plot of land and they were also not agreeable with the proposed amount.
Yes.
Can the Honourable Prime Minister consider this matter as soon as possible, because the inhabitants from this region is living with a daily stress because they can't invest or renovate their existing house?
The exercise is ongoing. That is, another valuation report of the plots of land of both villages go back to 2011. And AML is now planning to appoint a new chartered property valuer and land surveyor to review and update the existing reports of the 49 properties at Shah Gaon and the remaining 12 at Solitude village. Negotiation will start thereafter.
Yes, the honourable third member for Rivière-des-Andelys.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B277.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Mauritius Revenue Authority that the total amount of responsible gambling, this is the term in the law, so I'm using the same term, the levy collected in 2020 was 66.1 million, out of which 1.8 million was from totalizer operators. I'm also informed by the Gambling Regulatory Authority that a total amount of 9.6 million rupees was spent in 2020 as follows: 4.5 million on lab tests, 3.2 million on consultancy and capacity building, and 1.9 million on operating expenses.
Yes.
And Dr. the Honourable Prime Minister confirm how the funds are being spent from November 2024, as I understand that the levy was initially imposed to educate the operators, the gamblers.
And you want to know how the levy is being used?
From 2024 onwards.
We are looking at all this in the budget. I will come back with an answer in the budget.
Okay. Yes, honourable fourth member for Port Reach North. And Modena.
B278.
Madam Speaker, it is an understatement to speak of waste and poor management. The report of the Director of Audit for the financial year 2023-2024 was tabled on the 25th of March of this year. As in previous years, the report exposed a litany of scandals highlighting how public funds have been dilapidated by the previous government. The publication of the report of the Director of Audit cannot continue to be an annual ritual where we take stock of misuse of public funds without any concrete actions being taken to put an end to such a scandalous situation. Madam Speaker, it will not be business as usual. Stringent actions will be taken to ensure judicious use of public funds where the principle of value for money will be strictly adhered to. In fact, after tabling the report of the Director of Audit, I requested my colleagues to analyze all issues raised by the Director of Audit concerning their ministries, their departments, with a view to properly addressing them. Furthermore, we are already taking major steps to ensure judicious use of taxpayers' money. First, we are reintroducing the performance-based budgeting based, as I said last time, on outcomes, not on the amount of money spent. Second, we already announced and taken a commitment to introduce a Fiscal Responsibility Act. Madam Speaker, as stated in the government program, to foster greater transparency and accountability, we propose to make it mandatory for the Public Account Committee to look into the annual audit reports with the accounting officer in attendance. We will also ensure that the report of the Director of Audit is debated in the National Assembly and is submitted to the relevant institution for investigation where appropriate. I will come up with additional measures in the budget, Madam Speaker.
Yes, you're directly concerned. Yes.
Madam
The
Speaker.
Public Accounts Committee.
Madam Speaker, may I ask the Prime Minister, there is an alarming issue which is recurrent in the reports of the Director of Audit, that is the non-filing of financial statements by statutory bodies and other entities of the state. May I ask the Prime Minister, what does she propose to do? I would say as a matter of urgency, to ensure that government bodies are compelled to provide their financial statements to the Director of Audit within the time frame that the law provides.
This is precisely the point. The law provides a time frame, but they just ignore the time frame and no action was taken. We will ensure that this is remedied.
Yes, time is up. I have B282. The following PQs have been withdrawn. B282, B285 and 283. Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. Now we proceed with ministers' questions to ministers. Honourable members, the table has been advised that PQ B307 and B333 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Land Transport. PQ, I'm sorry, can we just, I hear a murmur. It's very tedious, even for me. So PQ B325 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Social Integration, Social Security and National Solidarity. PQ B334 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Youth and Sports. Now I call Honourable Third Member for Portruis North and Motailon, Mr. Kazern.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. PQ B288, please.
Madam Speaker, I am informed that provisions are made under subsection 2C1 of section 72 of the parking on road as per General Notice number 53 of 2010 of the Road Traffic, Construction and Use of Vehicle Regulations 2010, as subsequently amended in General Notice 170 of 2010, to prohibit motor vehicles other than a bus to be parked, 1, within a distance of 12 meters before and 8 meters after the bus stop signpost. Number 2, 20 meters opposite the restricted length covered in 1. Conversely detailed. Therefore, it is a traffic offence for vehicles other than a motor bus to park over a distance of 8 meters ahead and 12 meters behind a bus stop sign or 20 meters opposite, without the provision of yellow line markings. The rationale behind siting of bus stops revolves around several key principles that prioritize passenger safety, its efficiency and accessibility within a catchment for promoting use of public transportation. However, Madam Speaker, from daily observations and past surveys, it can be seen that parking of vehicles at and opposite some bus stops create traffic problems as well as road safety issues. Parked vehicles can block the path of buses trying to pull into the bus stop, forcing passengers to board or alight further away from the designated area, sometimes on the road itself, which poses a safety risk. Obstructions can also make it difficult for larger buses to maneuver and can impede the flow of general traffic. Therefore, the provision of yellow lines beyond the prescribed limitations may be considered at those problematic locations. Madam Speaker, there is merit in the question of the Honourable Member as regards if consideration will be given for the provision of yellow lines around bus stop, because many people do not know about the distances to be respected. Too often vehicles have to wait lengthily behind stationary buses, alighting or boarding passengers at bus stops because of vehicles parked on the opposite side of the bus stop, thereby hindering traffic flow. Madam Speaker, I for one believe that consideration should be given for the provision of yellow lines, as questioned by the Honourable Member, in extreme and priority cases. However, it may not be feasible for all such cases given the considerable impact this measure will have on the neighbourhood. Consideration will be given to the special query of the Honourable Member and other Honourable Members on a case-to-case basis.
Yes.
Madame Speaker, Madame la Présidente, comme souligné dans la question, c'est une situation assez embarrassante et qui cause de bouchons, congestion routière. Et il est aussi noté qu'il y a des opérateurs où le chauffeur agit comme deux fonctions, c'est-à-dire comme chauffeur et receveur, qui aussi occasionnent ce genre de bouchons, ce genre de congestion. J'aimerais demander à l'honorable ministre si cette pratique est légale et courante.
Vous connaissez la réponse.
In fact, both of them are illegal, to keep people waiting behind the buses, and the fact that they do not have conductors is definitely not legal, because we are paying, government is subsidizing drivers and conductors and the bus companies in general. Definitely not legal.
Thank you. Honourable Third Member for Gambé, Poudre-d'Or.
Madame la Présidente, merci. Ma question porte le numéro 289.
Madam the Speaker, allow me, with your permission, to answer PQs 289 and B342 together, as they both relate to the expenses in relation to the post of ambassadors.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
yes,
you.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, Section 87 of the Constitution of Mauritius provides for the appointment of principal representatives of Mauritius abroad. As such, the power to appoint persons to hold offices of ambassador, high commissioner, or other principal representative of Mauritius in any other country or accredited to any international organization is vested in the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. Madam the Speaker, I am tabling the list of ambassadors, high commissioners, and permanent representatives, their date of posting, qualifications, and basic salary, dates of accreditation, and allowances. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part D of the question, allow me to inform the House that all medical expenses are refunded to ambassadors in line with provisions made in the PRB report and their contract of employment, which are as follows. 90% of amount of medical expenses be refunded for themselves, spouse and dependent children aged up to 20 years, subject to, firstly, the production of duly signed and certified copies of medical certificates and prescriptions, invoices and receipts. Secondly, the claim being submitted on prescribed form as determined by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration, International Trade, duly signed by the officer making the claim and upon the recommendation of the head of mission. And thirdly, medical bills falling within the protocol and guidelines approved by the government. In case of hospitalization for surgical intervention, medical expenses incurred in respect thereof are refunded in toto, subject to the conditions set out in the above provisions, to an officer, his or her spouse, dependent children aged up to 20 years, and accompanying dependent of unmarried career diplomats upon their posting to overseas mission. There is also an exclusion list of treatments for which no refund is entertained, such as cosmetic treatment and contact lenses. I have therefore tabled the list of medical expenses refunded to ambassadors, high commissioners, and permanent representatives. Madam Speaker, with regards to PQB 342, as per their roles and responsibilities, ambassadors actively manage and maintain diplomatic relations between home country and host countries, as well as accredited countries. They also engage in political and economic negotiations and safeguard the home country's interest in the host country. To be able to fulfill these obligations, ambassadors are called upon to travel to various countries for the following reasons. Firstly, presentations of credentials to accredited countries and accredited international organizations, represent the President and the Prime Minister in summits and high-level meetings, represent ministers in conferences, meetings and negotiations, and attending national days and having bilateral meetings with foreign dignitaries. All overseas missions undertaken by ambassadors need to have been approved by the ministry. During their overseas mission, per diem is paid to ambassadors, high commissioners to cover the cost of accommodation, meals, internal transportation, and other related expenses. The rate payable, which is approved by the Ministry of Finance, depends on the country which they are traveling to. Ambassadors based abroad are sometimes also required to travel to Mauritius for consultations, specific cases. For example, the presence of an ambassador may be required during high-level visits of foreign presidents, prime ministers of countries to which the ambassador is accredited to. Ambassadors are therefore paid a per diem of 7,340 rupees per day for a maximum of 15 days to cover costs of accommodations and meals. Madam the Speaker, with your permission, I am tabling two lists. First one pertaining to period 2015 to 2019, and the second one for the records of 2020 to 2024. However, Madam the Speaker, allow me to say that it has been highlighted that some political appointed ambassadors, as opposed to career ambassadors, travelled to Mauritius in October 2024, just before the elections, on public funds, under the guise of urgent consultations, and were seen to be involved in election campaign. Further, the last Director of Audit report has made mention of a number of adverse findings on few politically appointed ambassadors who have made abuse of their privileges. For example, converting their annual and sick leaves into official duties whilst in Mauritius, thus benefiting from public funds, and some even extending their stay in Mauritius on disguised official missions while benefiting from chauffeur-driven cars at the expense of government. The findings of the Director of Audit report are being looked into by the Internal Audit Committee at the level of my ministry to take remedial actions. Thank you, Madam Minister.
Thank you. One moment. I have an announcement to make. Honourable members, j'ai l'honneur de saluer la présence à l'Assemblée nationale de Monsieur Jean Todd. Mr. Todd is United Nations Secretary General, Special Envoy for Road Safety. Seated in the distinguished VIP gallery, he is known for his global advocacy for road safety. He is currently in Mauritius on an official 24-hour visit at the invitation of the Honourable Prime Minister during which he will be having meetings with key stakeholders to discuss strategies for reducing road accidents. Bienvenue parmi nous, Monsieur Todd. Thank you for your attention.
Madame la Présidente, je voulais attirer l'attention de la Chambre sur les abus commis par les anciens diplomates, notamment les nominés politiques, et dans certains cas, des loyers de plus de 500 000 à 1 million de roupies par mois ont été payés pour les loyers de certains de nos diplomates. Et à d'autres cas, et je voulais poser la question au ministre, s'il est au courant que dans une ambassade au Moyen-Orient, une dizaine de voitures ont été achetées dans un espace très court.
Monsieur le ministre, vous avez la réponse?
Yes, as I've mentioned in my reply, there are a number of abuses on the part of ambassadors that have been highlighted. And at the level of my ministry, there is an audit committee which has been set up, chaired by the permanent secretary of my ministry, studying the audit report. And as I've said, remedial actions will be taken.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Duval.
Does the Honourable Minister agree that it is high time to do a cost...
Talk to me, but
Yes, I am talking this. I'm just taking stock of who's here. Does the Minister agree that it is high time to do a cost-benefit analysis of our foreign diplomatic missions abroad, and to align with the Singaporean model, that is that ambassadors are based in Mauritius, but travel, they arrange all their meetings, etc., their working sessions for specific periods of time to save public fund, and also to merge embassies, for example, like in the case of France and the embassy in Germany, which doesn't necessarily have a high raison d'être. Well,
okay, I think he got your message.
Is he prepared to do that?
Yes.
Let the Minister answer.
Well, this question,
Mr. Bhagwan, Minister is just behind you, trying to answer. The Minister is just behind you, trying to answer.
This proposition will have to be studied, but then the honourable member should also bear in mind that we have diplomatic relations with a lot of countries, and we have to be very careful when taking the decision to close embassies, etc. So the question will be studied, but then we'll come up with propositions.
No, you don't clarify, you put questions. You can put a supplementary question.
From a sitting position.
Yeah, don't speak from a... But everybody's doing that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the proposition is for the merging of certain embassies. Yes, the question is...
We all received your proposals, and I know what I'm talking about. Don't forget. Okay.
So
Question.
May I ask, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, around half of our diplomatic missions are costing us more money than they should really.
Question.
So the question is, it is now, since ambassadors have not yet been appointed for most of them, it is now a perfect time to do that. Will he do so now?
I can assure the honourable member that we won't do like the previous government to nominate or appoint political agents at the level of our embassies. So we will definitely look at competent and people who can bring, of course, resources to the country.
Thank you, Ms. Sabapati. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B290, please.
Madame la Présidente, la CWR m'informe que la circonscription numéro 4 pôle du Nord Montagne Longue comprend des zones d'équipés non raccordées au réseau d'égouts. Une partie des zones de cette circonscription relève du projet 3 d'investissement de Butstongo, mis en œuvre par phase. Les zones actuellement non raccordées au réseau d'égouts sont Carolalo, Vallée des Prêtres, une partie de le Terre Rouge, morcellement Raffray, morcellement Tara, Bois Pignolet, Richter, Montagne Longue, Notre-Dame, Crève-Cœur et Congoma. Afin d'assurer, Madame la Présidente, la continuité de l'extension du réseau d'assainissement dans la circonscription numéro 4, la WMA met actuellement en œuvre un projet d'assainissement à Carreau-Lalleux, Vallée des Prêtres, pour un montant de 216,28 millions de roupies mauriciennes. Parallèlement, les demandes de raccordement des maisons et d'extension des réseaux d'égouts, si techniquement faisables, bien sûr, réalisables, sont examinées dans le cadre de 2 accords-cadres en cours. Madame la Présidente, pour l'exercice 2025-2026, la WMA prévoit de mettre en œuvre un autre projet d'assainissement à Capitaine Bontré, à Sainte-Croix. Ce projet fait suite à une pétition des habitants se plaignant des débordements récurrents des fosses en raison de la perméabilité des sols. La WMA a soumis une demande de financement au ministère des Finances. À l'issue du projet, une 50aine de maisons seront raccordées au réseau public. Je suis aussi informé, Madame la Présidente, que la WMA procède de manière progressive et que les régions restantes sans égout dans la circonscription numéro 4 seront prises en compte dans le cadre du plan directeur de 2025 et au cours des prochains exercices financiers, bien sûr sur la base du financement fourni par le gouvernement.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. No.
Thank you, Madam.
Yes, supplementary.
I thank the Honourable Minister for his answer. May I impress upon him to act diligently as my constituency a été l'enfant pauvre du système d'évacuation d'eaux usées. And the problem requires an urgent attention. Thank you.
C'est tombé dans l'oreille de quelqu'un qui entend. Alors, donc, bien sûr, dans le plan directeur, votre circonscription sera prise en compte. Merci.
Ça y est, Madame Samarati, c'est bon? Alors, the next one is Mr. François.
Yes, thank you. B291.
Madam Speaker, at the very outset, allow me to thank the Honourable Member for this difficult question. The suggestion of making it mandatory for newly residential, industrial, and commercial building to be equipped with rainwater harvesting system is very relevant. I will explain comprehensively on what is being done on this subject. The building and land use permit, that is a BLUP, are issued under Section 117 of the Local Government Act, which stipulates that every application for a building and land use permit shall be in accordance with the following enactments and any guidelines issued there under. A. The Construction Industry Authority Act 2023. B. The Town and Country Planning Act 1954. C. The Planning and Development Act 2004. D. The Environment Act 2024. E. The Mauritius Fire and Rescue Service Act 2013. F. The Climate Change Act 2020. And G. Any other enactment as may be prescribed. Also at present, the law does not make provision for the installation of a rainwater harvesting system for major projects requiring an environmental impact assessment, that is a EIA license, or an approved preliminary environmental report, that is a PER. Proponents are advised to adhere to sustainable principles, including rainwater harvesting. I am advised that at present, developers having an EIA certificate or approved PER are being monitored as regards their adherence to the requirements. Currently, the Local Government Act is being reviewed. In this context, amendments will be brought to the existing legislation to make it mandatory for new industrial and large commercial buildings to be equipped with a rainwater harvesting system. It will also be mandatory for promoters to include the rainwater harvesting system in new residential complexes. Similarly, existing commercial and industrial buildings will be given a period moratorium to implement rainwater harvesting system. It is understood that for small business owners and households, it may be difficult to implement a rainwater harvesting system given the equity of the space and the cost. However, a cost-benefit analysis would need to be carried out before making it compulsory for low-income households and small businesses to install rainwater harvesting system. Consideration is being given to raising public awareness on the advantages of having a rainwater harvesting system. My ministry will therefore work with the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change and the Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities to create awareness on the need for each household and business operators to have a rainwater harvesting system. As regard to part B of the question, I am informed by the Minister of Finance that grants subsidies for rainwater harvesting system have been provided. In the financial year 2024-2025, an amount of 4 million rupees has been earmarked for the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change to implement the rainwater harvesting program in 10 schools and 10 NGOs in order to counter problem of water stretches during time of water shortage. These 10 schools and NGOs were selected following an open invitation launched by the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change on 23rd January 2025 among schools and NGOs. To implement the rainwater harvesting system for the project just mentioned, a bidding exercise was launched by the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change on 23rd January 2025 for the supply, fixing and commissioning of 20 rainwater harvesters, and B, supply, fixing and commissioning of 16 sets of 9,000 liters rainwater harvesting system and 4 sets of 5,000 liters rainwater harvesting system with pre-treatment system with screen basket piping system for rainwater collection inclusive of fittings. Opening of bid was carried out on 21st February 2025 and 3 bids were received and same are being evaluated. The evaluation has been completed in the beginning of April 2025 and the project implementation is due to start shortly. In addition, a scheme for rainwater harvesting system investment allowance income deduction for individuals has been introduced by the Minister of Finance. Under this scheme, an individual may deduct from his net income the full amount invested during an income year in the rainwater harvesting system to capture, filter, and store rainwater under the rainwater harvesting system investment allowance when filing the income tax returns. The scheme includes deduction for consultancy, design works, excavation works, gutters, and specialized water tanks in relation to the setting up of rainwater harvesting system. In the case of a couple, the total amount invested may be claimed either by one spouse or in equal proportion by both spouses. The full cost of the rainwater harvesting system can be deducted from the income tax claim. Any unrelieved amount of an income year may be carried forward and deducted against the net income of succeeding years. An assessment of this scheme will be made in course of the next financial year to determine the uptake.
Thank you, Minister. We got 9 minutes left. That's it. Okay, thank you. Now we have the Honourable Third Member for Beaubassin. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Land Drainage Authority that the constituency number 20, Beaubassin Petite Rivière, 9 drain projects to the tune of some 48.6 million have been completed during the financial year 2024-2025. With regard to part B of the question pertaining to ongoing projects, I'm informed that one project has been finalized for implementation, namely flood mitigation measures at Splendid View, Albion, for a total cost of around 114.9 million rupees. The project comprises the construction of, first, culvert along Albion Approach Road, second, drain towards Albion Approach Road, overflow structure and trial pits, and third, drains and culvert toward Morcellement Serenis and reinforced concrete drain below Magenta Canal. I am informed that works order to the tune of around 13.8 million has already been issued by the RDA on 12 December 2024 for the construction of the culvert along Albion Approach Road, and works are expected to be completed by mid-September 2025. On the other hand, works order for the remaining scope is expected to be issued by the NDU by the end of this week. Works are expected to start by 12 May 2025 for a duration of 5 months. Madam Speaker, I would also like to highlight that bidding documents have already been prepared for the following projects. First, flood mitigation measures along B78 and B105 road at Albion for an estimated cost of 216.5 million rupees, which will be implemented by the RDA. And second, construction of mitigating measures in the region of Coromandel, which will be carried out by the DICL for an estimated cost of 563.8 million rupees. Bids are expected to be invited once financial clearance is obtained from the Ministry of Finance. Moreover, I'm informed by the NDU that 4 projects for a total sum of 433.5 million are currently at consultancy stage and would be implemented subject to availability of funds. These projects are: first, construction of collector drain starting from the junction of Supramania Bharati Road and Bakuri Singh Road to Sugarcane Field, passing in front of MITD, Verge Bissamba, Montrouge. Second, construction of drain at Victor Hugo Street, Beaubassin. Third, construction of drain at Allée Roussaille and surroundings, Gros Caillou. And fourth, construction of drain at Douarca Lane off Richelieu Branch Road, Coromandel. I am also informed that some additional 14 drain projects in constituency number 20, estimated to cost some 149.7 million rupees, have also been identified for implementation, subject to availability of funds. Madam Speaker, with your permission, I'm tabling the list of the completed and ongoing drain projects.
Minister. Mr. Francois, you have your new question. I was going to ask if we can have question B294 first. Bear with me because the Prime Minister has to answer that question. I understand. No? 294? C'est pas possible.
That's fine, Madam Speaker. B293.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House may wish to note that in line with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement, the preparation of the NDC 3.0 is being carried out with the collaboration of the GIZ, a German development partner, under the NDC Partnership Readiness Support Program. The GIZ expert team has started the consultation process with the Department of Climate Change of my ministry since November 2024 and has already conducted a stock-taking exercise. The GIZ expert team, which was in Mauritius from 17 February to 21st February 2025, had presented the outcome of a draft desk review to stakeholders of the Climate Change Committee and provided the highlights of a roadmap which identifies the process of updating the NDC. The draft desk review and roadmap include recommendations for the development of the NDC 3.0 and an accompanying NDC development plan. Madam Speaker, with regards to Part A of the question, consultations had already been held at the level of the Climate Change Committee at its meeting held on the 17th February 2025 under the chair of my ministry, and which saw the participation of all its members from the public and private sector, the civil society, including officers from the Commission de l'Environnement of the Rodrigue Regional Assembly, virtually, in the presence of the GIZ team, The GIZ team, expert team, moreover, held several bilateral meetings with key ministries and departments to consolidate the roadmap, outline clear steps, roles and responsibilities of national stakeholders, as well as identify potential international experts to support the development of a sectoral pathway for the NDC 3.0. Madam Speaker, my ministry is in the process of finalizing a calendar of activities to pursue the dialogues and consultations. National consultation will be held shortly with the public at large, including that of Rodrigues, to invite them to submit their suggestions and vision for a national climate agenda. Madam Speaker, any suggestion from members of Rodrigues in this August Assembly would be most welcome. Madam Speaker, with regards to Part B of the question, responding to the climate challenges requiring significant financing, the nationally determined contribution of 2021 had estimated the climate requirement of the Republic of Mauritius to be USD 6.5 billion. It is expected that the NDC 3.0 will indicate a substantial increase in investment required to address climate adaptation and mitigation. In consultation with the Ministry of Finance, an investment plan will be prepared to identify the most appropriate financing instruments to meet the targets of the forthcoming NDC 3.0, which will have a timeline of 2025-2035. An effective response to climate actions will necessitate more effective access to climate finance at national level, including both public and private sector financing at international level. Madam Speaker, this government has already taken initiatives to enhance the financing governance mechanisms by improving transparency and accountability through the introduction of program-based budgeting and the targeting of climate expenditures in 7 pilot ministries, including my ministry. The tagging exercise is expected to be carried out thereafter in all government ministries and parastatal bodies. Madam Speaker, concerning Part C of the question, I wish to inform the House that the 2021 nationally determined contributions are still valid until year 2030. Moving ahead to 2035, the NDC 3.0 will ensure that ambitions are made more robust and realistic towards making Mauritius a climate resilient and low-emission country. The biennial transparency report prepared by my ministry in 2024, which tracked the implementation of the nationally determined contribution, showed that only 15% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions were achieved in 2022, against a target of 40%. Only 17% of renewable energy was integrated in the energy mix, against a target of 60% by 2030. The House may wish to note that the contribution of renewable energy in the energy mix at national level in 2005 was 25%, and after 20 years, it decreased to only 17%. In spite of a difficult economic situation, government will spare no efforts to put in place the agenda resources, the necessary resources to meet the targets and set and address our climate agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. No, not at this stage. We are breaking. You keep your supplementary for after lunch. Yes. Short, but he will have to reply to you. Vous savez ce que c'est que l'hypoglycémie? I'm going to raise for 2.5 hours. He can put his question. 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours. We'll come back at 2:30. Everybody's deciding. It's incroyable. Yes, we're raising for 1.5 hours.